Hello, true believers. Welcome to my channel, Mr. Miracle Comics. My name is Dave, and today we have 5 more undervalued comic books for us to take a look at. All right, so let's jump in the list right away. Recently, there's been a rumor regarding Emily Clark. We know that she has already been cast in Secret Invasion. That's not a secret. That was, let out there right away. Everybody was speculating that she could be the Skull Queen Berenke. Recently, based on an interview she gave, people kind of thought that she hinted that she's going to be Spider-Woman, right? Jessica Drew Spider-Woman. So people have been going crazy about the Spider-Woman stuff based on that rumor. But when she says that, to me, it just reinforced that she's actually going to be Berenke, the Skull Queen. Right, because if you've read Secret Invasion, you know that Berenke has a big deal to do with it, and she originally infiltrates everybody by pretending to be Jessica Drew Spider-Woman, right? So if Emily Clarkson's saying, dropping little hints that she might be Spider-Woman, I think it's more likely she's Berenke in disguise as Spider-Woman. And Berenke, the Skull Queen's first appearance shows up here in 2005. The new Avengers, #1. All right, so this book isn't exactly super under the radar. People are starting to take a look at it already. I bought it a couple weeks ago right from my LCS, pulled it out of the racks for $5. Looking on eBay right now, mint condition copies are about hitting the $20 mark, although I have seen it on auction sell for much less than that, right around the $5 mark as well. So this book isn't going to go under the radar for too much longer. If you're very interested in getting Berenke's first appearance, now is the time, I think, to grab a copy of the new Avengers, #1, right? So if Emily Clark is Berenke, that's a big star, so she should have a big role, and that will really push this first appearance up in price. So from 2005, it is the new Avengers #1. Look to pay around $20 for a mint condition copy right now, but if you do your shopping and look for a good auction, you could probably get it for cheaper than that. Sweet. All right, we're going to go to #2 on our list. #2 is the oldest book on our list today, and I have brought this book up before, but I still think it flies way under the radar, and I think Batman collectors should definitely take a chance and buy this book, because you can find decent copies of this book, $20 or so. Let me take a look. It is from 1968, and it is World's Finest, number 173. Now, this book is important because it has the only appearance of Two-Face in the Silver Age. So when this book was out, the Comic Code Authority was in full effect, right? You couldn't put murderous villains with terrible disfigurements on their faces into comic books, right? This was not allowed by the Comic Code Authority. So that's basically Two-Face was out, right? But what you can do is take a superhero and disguise them as that villain, right? Because you're not putting in a murderous villain at that point, you're putting in a hero in disguise. It's a little loophole, but that's what they used for this. So it's a really odd story where Batman takes on the mantle of Two-Face, drinks this potion, and actually thinks he is Two-Face and goes around starting to commit crimes as Two-Face, right? Superman, the same thing. He's got his own character that does that. This is the only known appearance of Two-Face in the Silver Age. His next appearance is going to show till the Bronze Age, 234, I believe. If you look at the price of that book compared to the price of this book, I think this book is very, very undervalued, right? I know it's not really Two-Face, but because of the Comic Code Authority, this is as close as you can get to having Two-Face in the Silver Age. This book still, you can find World's Finest on there. Really decent copies can still be found for under $30. You can find all kinds of mid-grade copies for $5 to $10 on there. I think it's a more important book than most people realize. Just Two-Face is such an important character to Batman and one of his big Rogues Galleries members, and this being his only Silver Age appearance, I think most Batman collectors really should try and pick this book up for their collection. It's getting to be a little more known, more and more people. I mean, I bring it up in videos and stuff, so kind of gets a little momentum going. But if you're a Batman collector, I would highly recommend picking up World's Finest number 173 from 1968. Look to pay somewhere, if you're lucky, more around the $30 mark for a decent copy of this. Moving forward to number 3 on our list. And this is a spec book that was actually brought up by a viewer in the comment section, and I thought it was such a good pick. It had flown under my radar, and I was so glad he brought it up. A viewer by the name of Ted Burnett. So Ted, if you're watching, I took your advice, and I'm going to share it with our audience here so we can all thank Ted for this one. And it is from 1986, and it is G.I. Joe number 44. And there is, like I said, a ton of first appearances that show up in this book. First appearance of the Bats. First appearance of Dr. Mindbender. First appearance of Crankcase. First appearance of Bazooka. First appearance of Airtight. First appearance of Heavy Metal. Right? So with Hasbro, dumping all this money and buying their own movie production studio, they're filming products and shopping them around to different stuff. We know that there's a Lady J property already in effect. There's a Snake Eyes movie coming out here right away. This is just the start of what's going to happen with G.I. Joe. They're really going to push G.I. Joe for the next few years, trying to squeeze their $4 billion back. I think they ended up paying for that movie house or production company. So expect, pretty much any character is on the table for G.I. Joe, right? I think there's a lot of really good characters here, both villains and heroes, right? Airborne is definitely one of those big characters. Dr. Mindbender is definitely a big character for G.I. Joe. These kind of characters are, have a high chance of showing up. Now, I think that, that the Snake Eyes movie is definitely going to focus on the ninjas. It's probably going to be some sort of, prequel where they really focus in on Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, obviously, right? You might get some characters that surround them, the Hardmaster, that kind of thing. But when we see streaming shows like the Lady J show, I am sure that there's going to be way more characters showing up in that kind of thing, right? Where she's actually in G.I. Joe doing stuff, right? So many first appearances in this comic, and it is cheap, right? So there's no reason not to buy this. There's only an upside that I can see to buying this book. G.I. Joe number 44. I paid $6 for this mint condition copy of it. Most of them go for around $5 to $20. Some people are asking. People do know that some sellers know that this has some first appearances in it and ask a premium for it. But generally, this is still a really cheap spec book. It can easily be found on eBay or LCSs or comic conventions. You're going to find this book. It's not that hard to find. Look to pay around, I'd say $5 to $10 would be a good price for this book right now. If these characters start showing up properties, you're going to see this book shoot up to a $20, $25 book pretty quick. All right, so that's a great G.I. Joe recommendation. Thank you again, Ted. We all really appreciate anybody that's got a spec pick they want to share with some of us. Please share it in the comments, and perhaps I'll put it on the show. Not every spec, I don't have every spec book, and I'm not going to get every spec book, but definitely appreciate the comment, Ted, and I appreciate the comments from everybody. So from 1986, it is G.I. Joe number 44. Look to pay around $5 to $10 for that guy. Lots of first appearances. Really great book. Okay, so this book is going to be the most expensive book on our list. I usually don't get books into this kind of price range, but this one I think could actually see another bump, and it comes from 1980. It is, of course, everybody's going to recognize this book when I pull up X-Men number 137. Now, why is this undervalued? This is actually got a Secret Invasion spec to it, right? So in here, there is a couple of characters that show up that are involved in the Skrull Kree War. Especially, there's a Skrull character. Let me get my notes here. All right. There's a Skrull character named Raxor and a Krieg character named Bel Dan. Both of these are important characters to these two alien races. Roxor is involved in Secret Invasion, as well as a lot of stuff with the Fantastic Four. He's in and out of comic books, shape-shifting general of one of the divisions of the Skrull army. Dan, he is a Kree soldier. We know that the Kree exist in the MCU, obviously with Captain Marvel. We could see him showing up. He is, again, a big military commander. Secret Invasion, a lot of the reason for Secret Invasion is the Skrull Kree War, and it was kind of like putting it on Earth in the battleground kind of state. So these two guys could definitely show up in some sort of Skrull form, in some sort of property to do with the Secret Invasion. Right now, this book, as far as I can tell, you can get pretty decent copies of this book for somewhere around $50 to $75. It is part of the Dark Phoenix saga. It is the death of Phoenix, so that kind of brought it up on a lot of people's radar. Not really seen as a big key book, right? Other than being part of the Dark Phoenix saga and the death of Phoenix, who doesn't stay dead, right? They retcon it to bring her back, of course, Jean Grey. But yeah, I think if those two characters do make appearances in the MCU, especially, I have more hopes for Roxor being a Skrull and being part of the Secret Invasion. I think this book could again show up on people's radar and start to see a little bit of a bump in price. Get it now if you want to get it before there's any kind of reveal of who the Skrulls are, or any kind of Skrull that's going to be in Secret Invasion. Then that might not happen until it actually plays out on the streaming service before we see something like that. But I think this one could definitely come back up on the radar and see a nice little bump. So from 1980, it is just X-Men special double-sized issue number 137, which is part of the Dark Phoenix saga. Look to pay $50 to $75 for a nice copy of that. Whew. So getting up to number 5 on the list, and actually number 5 is 2 books, so a little bit of a bonus book in there, and it comes from 1981, August of 1981. Both of these books do, and they are way under the radar. There's no footnotes in Key Collector about this. It's tough to find. I had to dig around, and it just came up when I was digging around for undervalued books on the internet. And it is both Marvel 2-in-1 number 78 and Dazzler number 6 from 1981, from August of 1981. And the reason that I bring up these 2 books is these 2 books have the first appearance of Dungeons and Dragons in comic books. So there was not a Dungeons and Dragons comic book itself until 1987. TSR invented, or Gary Gygax, started up TSR and started publishing Dungeons and Dragons in 1974. So from 1974 till 1987, the only Dungeons and Dragons appearances in comic books was in a serialized ad that TSR was putting out. Now, unlike a lot of other ads that just show here, buy our product, this was a serialized comics, right? It was set in comic form. There's a story to it. There's 9 parts that appear in between 1981 and 1984 in different comic books. I'm sure we've all seen the little Dungeons and Dragons ads where the adventurers are off doing it. I mean, I've probably all read it, right? And like I said, there's 9 parts to it. You could have a 9-page comic book about Dungeons and Dragons before that. So to me, it seems like this counts more than just an advertising first appearance, because it is a serialized story that continues on. Yes, there's advertising involved in it, but it's also characters, storylines, story development, monsters, magic, what they're doing, why, in order to get readers informed on what Dungeons and Dragons even is and what it's about. There is a Dungeons and Dragons movie, a big reboot, and they're actually going to spend some money. I understand they're looking at $150 million plus budget for this movie. Chris Pine is the actor that's set to star in it. There's going to be lots of CGI and stuff of Dungeons and Dragons, and it's going to come out in 2023. Their production was delayed. It was actually supposed to have come out by now, but of course COVID delayed all the productions, and so they're going to actually start filming this year to have it ready for summer of 2023, right? It's going to be one of their big blockbusters that they're going to put out. So the first appearance of these two comic books came out on the same day, on Wednesday, with that same advertising in it. Both of these books can be found for $1. Max I would ever pay for an absolutely nice copy of one of these books is $5, maybe $8 if I was feeling like I had lots of money that day. Way under the radar. I think as that movie starts to come out or get closer to coming out and there's more production release and stuff, Dungeons and Dragons books are going to get really hot, and these two are the actual first appearance of Dungeons and Dragons in a comic book. All right, so from August of 1981, we have Marvel 2-in-1 Thing and Wonder Man, Marvel 2-in-1 number 78, and we have The Dazzler number 6. Both of these books, $1 to $5, like I said, to get these ones into your collection. And I think once people realize that little deal, and it's not exactly the easiest information to find. These books could actually, be sought after and see a rise in price from $1. Awesome, guys. That has been our 5 undervalued list for this week. Hopefully, you guys found a few books in there that you're interested in. I think there's some good specs in there to buy for cheap. And of course, that's always up to you, right? We're doing our far out specs. A lot of this stuff seems kind of odd, but man, we paid off on a lot of these books and over the years, right? So I'm going to end the video here. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you again in 2 weeks with another undervalued video. Just a reminder, Wednesdays are new comic book days, but every day is old comic book day. Please like and subscribe. My name is Dave, and I'll see you next video.